All right, pro wrestling fanatics, on this week's episode, we are talking WWE Creative Control, All Elite Wrestling going for a swim. And hey, TNA Wrestling, we are coming after you. As always, I'm that Art of the B2B, Richard Bronson Vickery, joined on the other side of the screen by Poz. Is that you? Is that really you? Or is that AI Pozbot?
Hey, you never know, nowadays. You really never know. But it is really me. It is really John Poz here. The interesting thing with the AI is, have you ever really used it? Have you actually used like ChatGPT or Gemini and stuff? Have you actually used this stuff?
You know what? Especially with my my shoot job, my day job, working in media and marketing, I will say this. Those who use it, there's a lot of cool things. And what it can do, even right now in its infancy, is pretty cool. Maybe a little terrifying. But those of you using it, yeah, it can be fun. It can be cute and entertaining at times. But if you're relying solely on the AI bots out there, you're not a creator. You're not being original. You're not doing anything on your own. You're just feeding the machine. And I am here to rage against the machine, Poz.
I feel like, crazily enough, it is wrong a lot. That's my kind of takeaway from it. It's been wrong a lot, so.
There's a lot to get into. We're going to talk a little WWE creative. I'm sure we're going to dive a little bit more into AI with their company leaning in that direction. And as we got some things going on there, we do got some our first topic here, Poz. A little bit of bad news, and you hate to see something like this, really for anybody, but especially for someone who seems to be on that breakthrough move, moving up the card. Really has been picking up fire since joining the company. Fans rallying behind him. So excited to see him in the ring. Things happen. Heading to the sideline, we got recent reports. Jacob Fatu has suffered some sort of injuries. They're saying non-wrestling related. But the cases, I know you got some more details on this thing. But it could keep him sidelined well into 2026. Very disappointing news here.
And he hadn't been used that much even before the injury. So it was like very strange booking. Did they really need to turn him babyface? I know he was super over and the crowd's really getting into it, but was that the right decision? Because then they really didn't have anybody to feud with him, and like they had no creative for him. So just kind of a mistake there all the way around. Then the injury comes about, makes it even worse. But apparently that's a bit of a shoot, how they had his mouth bleeding and teeth or whatever was all over the floor, whatever was going on with that injury. Apparently a little bit of a shoot. They're saying the injury to Fatu is actually possibly a dental injury or some sort of injury to his mouth. So that was a little bit of a shoot as far as SmackDown was concerned, and playing off his real life injury of something going on with his mouth. But yeah, it sucks if he's out for an extended period of time, because man, he's one of the best guys on their roster easily.
When you say dental, man, I immediately cringe a little bit. When you start messing around with your teeth, man, there's nothing more painful, and it just really gets into your nerves. It causes, extreme headaches, vision, hearing, and there's so many other things that are tied into that. I guess, if I could give anything, words of encouragement for Jacob Fatu. Such an incredible talent. Again, as you said, so hot, and the people just fell in love with him. They had turned him. They were trying to find a direction for him there. I would say, while you're on the sideline, don't get discouraged here. Keep in mind that direction you were heading in. And hopefully, first and foremost, listen to the medical staff. Take care of yourself physically, mentally. But hopefully he's all right where he can still in some way be involved with the product. Take this time as a step back to maybe reevaluate, reassess, learn from what you've already experienced inside the company. Is fuel for growth to evolve going forward. You come back, it's like you haven't missed a beat, brother. You can slide right back in, continually be pitching ideas for them, working with people, understanding maybe a little bit more of the business side of this. I would suggest, this kind of reminds me, the injury is not the same, but you see somebody that is white hot on the rise and they have a big injury. It's like when Austin broke his neck, and he took that time to come back bigger, better, and badder than ever. And then, after return, we really see the explosion of Austin 316.
So hopefully it turns out for Jacob Fatu like that. We'll see.
Yeah, hoping for good things for Jacob Fatu. While you're on the show up there, we are going to miss you, but hopefully you stay heavily involved in the wrestling there, brother. So he might feel, it's a low for him. but hopefully he'll find a high. Let's move on to some other lows here. We continue on with our WWE talk, Poz. And this is, a running theme across the board for all the podcasts, regularly looking at these things, that people that love the business of the business, as you got your own show there. But again, TV ratings, not so good. Streaming numbers don't seem all that great. We got new lows for WWE when it comes to that live must-see viewership, Poz. And this is, again, a reoccurring trend that we're talking about. Is the temperature heating up from these streaming services, the network? Are they putting any more pressure on WWE that you feel?
I don't think so. I think that they don't really noticed it as of yet. I feel like these are all kind of skewed. I know this is maybe a different take, but it's definitely skewed. It's definitely different. Less than 50% of people have cable. So, of course, the numbers are going to be the new lows. And, of course, they're going to go down. It's common sense. If only 49% or 48% of people have cable, and it used to be 100%, obviously the numbers are always going to be new lows, but you just have to pay attention to where they are in the top 10 and in the top 20 and that. And they're always in the top 10, sometimes in the top 5. Even AEW, when we're talking sort of the bad AEW numbers that people are ripping on, still will be in the top 6 or the top 5 or the top 10. So you have to kind of realize it's a little bit skewed, and you got to pay attention to it. Even though the global numbers for Raw, everyone, 2.4 million going up against Monday Night Football, that's terrible. And then, ripping and stuff. And then you look, and it's in Netflix's top 10 every week. So I guess it isn't that bad. So I always feel like it's skewed, and people are making too much out of it. The WWE haters, I feel like they always, out and try to, knock it, even if the product is hot, even if, they're selling out Tempe, Arizona, of all places, people will try to knock it.
Is the product hot? I mean, if we look at who are the stars here, I mean, the sales are hot. They are selling their product, but is the creative? And I think that reflects in that we are not seeing results in the must-see category. And that's what they're selling to these streaming services, these networks, is the live function of their product, that we are giving you must-see. This is just like the NFL pitching, Major League Baseball, NBA, all of them pitching, because this is live programming for you, not come back and watch later. That is a big sell that gets those big time dollars. Now, Puzzle, let me ask you just real quick. You say, like, when now that less than 50% of homes have cable, is that also taking into account, like me, who uses like a YouTube TV?
So
because it's not technically cable. So I think that number is also skewed for who's reaching like a USA network.
So even I was looking into that. That's even weird too, because it only takes in certain televisions. So like YouTube TV, as far as I know, isn't counted in, but Roku TV, like if you're using a Roku TV, they are somehow able to count that. Then it's like they count Comcast, don't count Verizon. It's like, well, how many people have Verizon percentage and how many people have Comcast? So it's still super skewed and super shady, even though they're saying it's more accurate. I still don't know how accurate it is if they're not counting in every cable system. And YouTube TV, which so many people have, I have Sling TV, and are they even counting my Sling TV? So very strange. I don't know how they're getting an accurate number.
Well, I'm a network executive, and I'm looking at this thing. I can tell, and I'm looking at reviews of this. This isn't the best product out there, but you regularly hear back, the defense when we talk about these low numbers, individuals saying, "Oh yeah, but look at the deals that they're signing, look at the gates, that they're selling out, look at the ticket targets that they're doing to sell out these gates and hit these record numbers." But at some point, if you're the streaming service, if you're Netflix, if you're USA, you don't necessarily care about all that. You're caring about the eyes on your product, because full arenas don't do anything for you and your advertisers.
That's true. But even NFL, when they're having those huge TV deals, they don't really necessarily live up to making up that amount of money either. So it's always skewed. It's always about getting the eyeballs.
What are you talking about? They have record viewership across the board,
but they lose billions on the TV rights deal. I think the last deal, they lost $400 million. I think Fox, when they did the NFL deal. So they lose a significant amount of money. But obviously, if you didn't have NFL on Fox, nobody's watching Fox. Period. I mean, if that wasn't
right, so I mean, you're making it up in other ways there. But I guess a little bit of a tie-in with WWE Monday Night Raw and the NFL. This was the last week that WWE Raw would be going up against a 2-game Monday Night Football.
They're
So real
lucky.
quick on
Yeah.
that. So real quick on that, would you go ahead to have, you've got sports, mindset people tuning in on Monday nights ready for that. Would you permanently move Raw to 7:00 to give yourself almost an hour and a half of programming before kickoff at about 8:20?
Oh, I would definitely. I would have done it before the season started, then get people ready for the 7:00, and then just keep it going during the season. And when the season's over, move it back. But I don't know what their plan was, but I would have done that easily. I mean, that would have been a slam dunk for me. I would have done that 100%.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of interesting. They tried it there for a couple of weeks. They were running against that
Yeah.
head-to-head. So we'll see.
Yep.
We'll see where we'll go there. I've seen Poz, a lot of fans are talking about, and again, we're going to kind of hang on the WWE business side of this and their creative direction. A lot of fans are talking that they feel that we're in a reset mode with WWE, kind of some restart, some new directions, things there. Your thoughts on that take?
It is interesting because it almost seems like yes in a way, but in the other way, I know you were saying maybe regurgitate it a little bit. It does seem like they're almost like kind of going backwards with kind of doing the same thing over and over and over again. It hasn't been like, let's say you do a creative reset that's like kind of like, oh, now we have the NWO and we're going in this direction. It's like, so now we have the Attitude Era, Steve Austin going in this direction. And those are like the best scenarios, but it doesn't seem like we're getting kind of like the best creative possible. It just seems like, oh, let's waste a few weeks here while we're eventually going to build up the Survivor Series and then start the WrestleMania and really kicking into gear. It does seem like they're, I don't know, not trying as hard, I guess you could say. I know that then the writers, oh, we're trying so hard, but it does seem like they're almost wasting time. You know what I mean? It seems like maybe a reset, but almost like lazy booking reset here. Like it's like, yeah, let's waste a few weeks here while we have it.
Well, this time of year, usually as we go into the holidays and they do see numbers significantly dip, things like that, we have seen them kind of go into a lull, which I think, if you're going with a reset, I'll get back to that here in a minute. I mean, not really a great time for that because, not a lot of eyes on the product. But you hit the nail right on the head there with a few things that you said there, Poz. When it comes to creative, and what's so frustrating is they've got a few of the things out there a la carte that you're like, man, that sounds pretty good. But when you go to sample it, it's like, did you put any seasoning? Did you really fully cook this thing through? It feels like their creative only hits, and I'm probably being pretty modest here, pretty polite towards them, at 40% of what it could be worth. It's probably much lower than that. You took all those blockbuster numbers you're getting, selling out arenas, your merch, your streaming deals, all of that, and then you actually hit a good product. Imagine. Good creative. Imagine how much more you could be bringing in as a company. But it seems just like they half-ass everything. But I keep hearing this reset. When you reset something, just like a video game, you're just going because you usually reset because you're in trouble with something. You're not going to be able to get through it. You're not on the right direction. You reset it. You go back and play the exact same level. To me, they should be refocusing on like a rebirth, a rebranding, a new direction for the company. But it seems like they're terrified to make any moves like that. And I don't know what the case is. They keep just going back to the same old, which is why I brought up to you. I mean, is it reset or regurgitating the same old crappy creative, Poz? Maybe one of the fixes there, they're starting to dip their toe into that end of the pool. You asked me my opinions on the top of the show, but Poz, could AI take over the world of professional wrestling creative?
That's a kind of scary situation because are you that lazy creatively? Or like, oh, let's use AI to help and stuff. I know people use it for work and different things. It is helpful, but it's not like the end all be all. It's not actually going to make it super creative. I like it to a certain extent, but it is wrong a lot. Like I put in something and it wrote back to me. I'm like, yeah, but you forgot this, and this, and that's misspelled. And then, and then it comes back. So it's not perfect, not even close. So if you're using it for creative, I guess you're trying to get an idea, but then you got to build upon the idea. So you still need to be creative itself. I think it's kind of lame, to be honest. Like that's how you're going to use creative. I'd rather go back and be like, oh, I want to watch Kevin Sullivan in 1984 in Florida and steal some stuff from him and like that kind of stuff. You might be taking something from the past and making it new again, but with your creative spin on it, not AI. That's lame as hell.
Well, essentially AI, again, the thing is they're artificial, and we are just feeding the machine what humans have already done. But the one thing the machine cannot duplicate is our senses and our emotions. That true being able to understand what it means to feel, what it means to be human, and connect with others and tell those stories. With AI, we're just going to be taking the things from the past, those ideas, those stories that Sullivan came up with, that a Rip Rogers, somebody that came up with. Now, it is kind of scary how advanced it already is, and we're going to see how it grows and how it can duplicate those things from the past. But I think what's kind of humorous is one of the stories that just came out is that recently a test run with AI inside of WWE generated a story for Bobby Lashley, by the way, not even with the company, but it suggested that he become a wrestler that is obsessed with Japanese culture. So what past information they feed it in? Because that sounds like a story that did not work out for Lord Tensai. It didn't work out for him at all. Ask Prince Albert how that went, because you know what, really, that gimmick left him with, it probably felt as good as taking a barb and piercing it through your bell head, the actual Prince Albert. That's how well that got over there. So thanks AI for coming to the table on that one. But hey, we're just not going to knock it. We just don't. Go ahead.
And if you use it like in that instance, like, but in the past that didn't work at all. So it doesn't take in certain things either. That's a mistake that it always does. Even when you're looking at like baseball analytics and they're kind of using AI and stuff for baseball, it doesn't take in hot streaks, cold streaks. Hey, this lefty on lefty, like Cody Bellinger for the Yankees, like, oh, lefty on lefty. The guy hit 400 or something off of lefty. So why would you want it? Like, it doesn't account for certain things. Just it doesn't. It's so many mistakes.
All right, well, we'll pause there. We're harping on the people on creative, on the machines on creative. Let's put our thinking caps on here, brother, and see maybe if we can come up with some ideas for some big things that seem like that on our horizon here for WWE. One of the bits of good news that I saw out there recently on the sheets. She's been on the shelf for a while, but she is expected to return maybe at the later part of 2025 into early 2026. Pause. Again, let's put those thinking caps on. How would you book Liv Morgan's return?
I feel like it's kind of fairly simple. I guess it's fairly easy. She'll just kind of return and think she's going to run the Judgment Day, probably get a huge babyface reaction. So it'll probably have to be a babyface. For her, I think it's just she's a great wrestler. Obviously, probably the most best looking, if you will, woman on the roster. If you want to say one of the best looking. So initially, I think she'll just get a huge pop. I think she's going to be over, and I feel like she's just going to have to kind of go against Dom and go against the Judgment Day and kind of take them out. I feel like maybe that's easy, simple 101, easy booking, but I don't know really how else you would do with her because I feel like she's going to get a huge babyface reaction when she comes back.
Yeah, how can you miss someone unless they're gone? And she's been gone. And people loved her before that, and they realize the workhorse that she had become. They're going back a couple of years ago. She's one of those names that I was like, get rid of. I didn't see any value in her. And boy, did she prove me wrong. In like a year and a half's time, we got to watch her go from a girl in this business to straight up the woman. Her ring work was incredible, but and outside of that, she really got her character. Everything about her body language inside the ring, everything sold, everything moved, whatever was happening around her, moved it forward. You can make an argument there for a while that she was the MVP, men and women, of that entire company. Going into last year's WrestleMania, they cooled her off. And you see that sometimes with people that are on the upkeep kind of help out during that lull season, the holiday season we were talking about. Then you got the special attractions come back, and it's a testing ground. Okay, are you still going to give us that effort? Are you still going to hit on all fronts for us? And she absolutely did that. Fans respected that. Devastated that she gets injured and she has to disappear here. I agree with you wholeheartedly. If she comes back, people are going to go ballistic. They are going to love it. You're going to have massive pops that rival the biggest stars in the business. bring her back as a baby face. Now, for the idea of this, obviously we got some loose ends that we need to tie up with Judgment Day. They bring in Roxy. Is there going to be heat? Is there going to be tension there? Where does Raquel's alliance line? Where is Dom in this entire thing? Has Finn, the puppeteer, been playing his own dirty games in the background? I actually have an idea. As a promoter, I've always set up my own little box of gimmicks, right? Things that you think could work for your promotion, that you try to look for those right talents that you could bring in this one. I've got one I've been sitting on. And I think this would work perfect here for Liv. I do agree with her. Bring her in and have her kind of be the reason for the demise, the downfall of Judgment Day. But don't have her go against Roxy. Don't have her, go against Raquel. Let's start a dominant women's faction with the three of these that are kick-ass, badass. One of the favorite games out there that everybody likes to play. What is it? FMK? F Marry, Kill, right?
Yep.
So we kind of have those three dynamics with the three of them. The F, the one, you're going to get freaky with. It's going to be wild. That's Liv. She's that bad girl. She's the bad girl, the leader of this pack. The Mary, have Roxy play a little bit more. She's green. She's more of the rookie here. Have her kind of be the sweet, maybe naive at times, girl next door. And then you kill is your killer. And that's Raquel. So FMK, bring these badass chicks together, get rid of Judgment Day, and let these three go on a tear and build up the women's division.
Wow, not a bad idea.
Hey, before we get out of there on that, how about just a little Liv appreciation? But
she's the best. That's why I said it. She's the best.
I've had that gimmick in the back of my mind for about 3 years now. I've thought of that. I've been looking at indie talents that I could pitch that to. Hey, on the backside of that here, let's stay on the booking trend. Big match coming up here. Saturday's main event to crown a new WWE World's Heavyweight Champion. Going to be CM Punk versus Jey Uso. Poz, how you booking this one?
This is a tough one for me because they can kind of go in a different direction. They want Jey to be more of like that tweener kind of heel, even though he gets massive reactions at the live shows. I mean, he's probably the most over guy on the show. He's picking up babies out of the crowd. They're all dancing with him, doing his entrance. I mean, they love it. They live for his entrance. But I feel like Punk has to win. He didn't get a title run. Obviously, he won the title, won it for 5 minutes, and they took it off of him. But I don't know. I feel like they kind of need some star power to be champion, and he's the biggest star, obviously, on Raw, maybe the biggest star in the company, just as far as sheer guys there all the time and actually, well, maybe Cody too, but is actually, and Roman, I guess, but it just feels like Punk is the guy when they announce him for a show at MSG, 7,000 more tickets sold. Like, he just seems like that big draw, like, hey, he's on air. Do you see the ratings go up at least 200,000 people or whatever it is? It just, he seems like the guy. Give him a title run, give him some good booking, maybe some good heels to go against. But I feel like Punk's got to win. Maybe Jimmy gets involved and something happens there. But I feel like Punk's got to win.
I agree with you there. When you were looking at that star power, who's going to be out there on that PR trail, who's going to look good with that championship, who can show up in an ESPN studio and handle himself. Hey, you go back to WrestlePalooza, we were doing the crossover. The heat is over. The entrance is over. But when it comes to PR, Jey is terrible. When he was doing the stuff on ESPN, thank God he had Jimmy there with him. Jimmy was the one person that knew how to handle something, that could carry that conversation there. Jey really struggled with it. And I think, we are at a point here, and maybe these frustrations we're seeing with the character are a little true. Because he is just that big entrance. He is just going out there, kissing the babies. What a great moment that is. Run it back. Let's do it again. Blowing up for the match. And I think people who are outside of that are getting a little tired of the in-ring with him, it being in these spots, these main events. You saw when the possibility, going back to that Battle Royal, that arena erupted, went crazy at the possibility of Dirty Dom getting that spot. And it kind of just pulled way back, like, Jey again here. Now, obviously, there is the intrigue, again, with the tension with him and his brother, what's happening really with the bloodline still, all those family ties. If I had to pick one of these two, I think Punk is, but I think Punk is one of those guys where there's so much intrigue. He doesn't necessarily need to be walking around with it. There's a lot in the chase for Punk, but he can still do all those other things without the gold. But it always was nice to have that. I'll tell you what I'd do here. The two guys that I think that they set way back on Monday inside of their booking, took away their heat, try to get that back. Then they didn't even include them here. I would have the Bronson and Braun Breaker go out there and absolutely decimate both of these gentlemen. And then, like, where's Adam Pierce? We need a decision on us. Show that they already got a hold of Pierce. He's laid out in the back. He's laid out in his office unconscious when they find him. We go off the air without any resolution of or a new champion like this. Let's roll this into Survivor Series. I know we got War Games. Let's let the ladies have War Games, and the men, let's do a tournament, Deadly Games 2.0, and run it. Let's stretch this thing out and really build it and give an opportunity to some other individuals to go in here and make a name for themselves.
Hey, not bad again. Look at you. You got your booking hat on today. This is great. That's not a bad day. I kind of wanted it to be a tournament.
Yeah, something different. I'm a sucker for those battle royals, but even that I thought they completely missed the boat on. Missing the boat. Poz TNA. Hey, they didn't miss the boat on the success for the Bound for Glory event, man. Records for them domestically here. Coming in hot. People are talking about the product, excited for it and all that, but missing the boat. Dropping the ball the very next week. Tell me. They didn't just do that, Poz. They run a clip recap show coming off of all of that hotness that was for Bound for Glory.
Honestly, shocked by this, like, almost inexplicable, like what, and unacceptable too, to be honest. It's just, I was shocked, absolutely shocked. How the hell is that even possible? Like, imagine Raw after Mania, like how everybody's so invested. That's that fever pitch. You got the most fans in town. They had 7,000 fans in town, over 7,000. And maybe they could do show the next night, and then did they not want to take away from Raw or NXT or something? So that means that the WWE partnership maybe isn't as great, that they're taking away from their big moments and their big shows. So how do you not keep the momentum going and have another show? Just inexcusable, just terrible. I was shocked about that. That's almost like there's no way that's real, and it is like shocking how kind of a big mistake that was to me.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. When we looked about it, we were talking before we hit record here, going back just to refresh my memory with it. It was on a Sunday night. It was part of that scheduling, like, do this on a Saturday so you can run it back with all those fans in the area, get some stuff in the can for Sunday. So, and maybe you can tie in some recaps, things like that, relive the greatest moment Bound for Glory, but also move the product forward. I wondered if they didn't expect the product to be this hot, because this time of year they are going into holiday mode themselves. They do kind of shut down. We do kind of get a lot of look back, retrospective things like that. But TNA drops the ball here on a hot streak. You have got to roll with it. I know they do have 2 more sets of tapings coming up to wrap up in the year. So very, very strange that they would take a break here in a big miss for a company that is on the rise.
Huge miss.
Poz, one of the hot topics of the week here in professional wrestling, going back to AEW, All Elite Wrestling, Wrestle Dream. And we've had Twitter beefs all over the place. Fans have been sounding off those in defense, those diehards, those sickos that love AEW. The general public that just said, what are they doing here? Do they not get it? I want to ask you, Poz, the big question: is AEW drowning?
It is interesting because it looks like they're getting a great return on investment as far as the amount of people that are very low right now watching the show as far as the weekly TV, but getting pay-per-view buys. So I saw one of their pay-per-view buys for All In, 175K, which is great for them. So it is kind of interesting. But then I looked, they only had 1,800 tickets for Dynamite. And then you look and they only sold, 900 tickets for Dynamite. And but they did sell 6,600 for their pay-per-view. So it is kind of a weird world. I guess the pay-per-views do well, which is good, and the attendance for the pay-per-views do well, but weekly TV is not keeping everybody hooked, not keeping everybody interested, and Collision is like hit or miss. I guess people are just not as interesting. It would be interesting to see the financials, but they obviously never get released. I would like to see how they're doing financially. I know 185 million a year from Warner Brothers Discovery is great, unless, fortunately they might be selling to Paramount Skydance, but we'll see about that. But just, I wish I would know more about their financials, because it seems like they're very helter-skelter, like very up, very down. Pay-per-view is great, and then TV show's horrible. Like then the ratings are horrible. Oh, the pay-per-view is great, sold out in 175,000 buys. Oh, that's great. And then TV, 477K watching, and then you see only 1,800 people showed up. So it's like, wow, I don't know. It's like a wishy-washy thing. I don't know what the heck's going on with AEW right now.
Well, let me ask you this, Poz. I mean, you look at those numbers a lot more intensely than most individuals out there. If you're AEW, obviously you're saying, man, they've got that steady number, the success there with their buy rates for their big events. They're steady on their ticket sales for those big events there. There is that niche market. There's a group of wrestling fans that like what they're doing. On that other side of it, though, the argument is if they would appeal to a broader audience, they could grow. Could you see that maybe would they alienate those sickos, as Tony has dubbed them, and lose everything if they tried to go to a larger, broader audience? Are they afraid of that?
It seems like they don't want to lose what they have, and they're not willing to risk to try to change and maybe go in a different direction and to get more fans. They don't want to, but I feel like if you do that, you'll still keep the sickos because they'll watch no matter what. So I feel like you do got to change it up and go in that direction.
Certainly worth a try. Keep our eye on there from All Elite Wrestling. Hey, they got the bankroll to keep them going for a while. They probably aren't going anywhere. So I wouldn't necessarily say drowning, but they might just be kind of off directionlessly floating around out there in the ocean. Pause. Next week, big holiday coming up. Halloween, brother. We're going to come up with a special Halloween-themed 10 count. Yeah, all the topics talking about Halloween-related wrestling subjects, man. I'm looking forward to that. But how about as a little teaser? And when you think Halloween, one of the great events has to be Halloween Havoc, originally part of the NWA, WCW. WCW took it with themselves. It has recently been revived, brought back from the grave, if you will, Frankenstein by WWE themselves. Poz, let's talk about our favorite Havoc memories.
There is a lot of them, and I'll go through quickly, but there is a ton. I love the original Halloween Havoc. Obviously, Sting and Flair versus Mood and Funk is really awesome. Then I loved when basically fake Barry Windham or fake Sting was the original fake Sting. Barry Windham dresses up as that, and Sting and Sid. You think Sting loses, but it's really Barry Windham dressed up as fake Surfer Sting. That's awesome. Love Chamber of Horrors. I love Spin the Wheel, Make the Deal. I know the match didn't end up being great, but the build up with Sting and Jake the Snake Roberts was awesome. If you look at 93, Vader versus Cactus Jack, which I know is your favorite, was awesome. Texas Death Match. That match is great. 94 Hogan Flair, you get the retirement match. That was cool. 95, we might talk about that, but that might be nothing great as far as what you're thinking of. I'm thinking of when Flair turns on Sting and they restart the Four Horsemen with Pillman, Arn, Flair, and then eventually Benoit. Love that. I thought that was so cool. That was the best part of the show for me. You might have a different opinion on that, but me, favorite Havoc moment, I'll throw it out there. Hogan beats Savage in 96. Piper comes out, and they have the greatest promo exchange of all time, going back and forth. That's my favorite, 96 Havoc.
All right, so since you mentioned it up there as one of your favorite moments, I had that on my short list of favorite. And I love that, man. It's bagpipes. Even the commentaries putting it like, what is that there? And they're like, oh, man, I'm getting those chills. Dusty's putting it up. I'm getting them chills up my spine. And then to see Rowdy back there, man, I just still remember that huge pop, that moment for me as a fan to see as the worst, essentially, between Hollywood Hogan and Rowdy coming back for that. You'd mentioned also very early on in my life, man, because I got to watch a lot of content from both of the companies, but never had really seen anything like Cactus Jack versus Vader in that Texas death match. Is the young RBV, and just like almost like terrified of what I had just witnessed between these two. I knew it was awesome, but I still couldn't believe it. Man, it hit me there. One of the cool things that I always thought from a business aspect of Halloween Havoc, because a lot of fans thought, Starrcade was essentially like their Super Bowl, their World Series, their WrestleMania. But Eric Bischoff had mentioned one time from the office sense, he always looked at Halloween Havoc as the big time show, because as you're heading into that last quarter of the year, you're lining up your big sponsors for the rest of the year. So Havoc that he would bring in all these big groups, which I think was prevalent why you always seen like Slim Jim so prominently featured as one of the big sponsors. Like, look what we're doing for them. We can do this for you. It was a big selling point to the sponsors, the business to business networking for the company to build, that web of promotion, which I always thought was pretty cool. But yeah, you are right, Poz. We're talking about favorite memories, and sometimes they're not for the best. And I think all the wrestling fans out there will absolutely remember this scene right here. The Giant and the Yeti
Nice.
tag teaming, dry humping Hulk Hogan. But I especially like this background, Poz, because let's not forget, before we got the close of the show with Yeti and Hogan and a Giant and a Hogan hoagie, if you will, we also had the monster truck portion where we saw the Giant basically murdered, falling off the top of a building up there.
So bad. And it's crazy because that show, like with the Flair turn, it's like, wow, that was so cool. That was like so, like gritty pro wrestling. The Horsemen are back. And then you have the monster truck, horrible man versus man, machine versus machine. And then you get the Yeti at the end. Strange. What a strange company. But I did like that show, oddly enough. It's strange.
It's kind of funny as you get with the Flair stuff. It was like, okay, this is true blue through and through WCW. And then the Hogan stuff was like, but sports entertainment's coming for you. This is where we're heading.
Yep. So true.
That's exactly what you got. Well, Poz, we are up against it here, brother. That means it is time for our Pop of the Week. And this week we got a great share from Trinity Fatu, a.k.a. Naomi. She is out on maternity leave, expecting a child there with Jimmy, and a little oos. And she shared this awesome picture, man. This is pretty cool. Already in the womb, carrying on from the family. Look at that, Poz. The little one, the Lewis is doing the yeet. Yeet. Pop of the Week. Hey, guys, we're going to be back right at it here on the Hummy Media Group channel, on the Two Man Power Trip channel. Next week, our Halloween special. We'll see everybody then.